What is far deadlier than most people realize? Serious. Hi guys, it's Em. Please enjoy today's video as we deep dive into some of the scariest real-life scenarios you might not have considered. Story 1. Vaccine. People seem to have this idea that a few drops of Vaccine in someone's drink will give them diarrhea, and do it to prank each other, or get some sort of satisfaction with petty revenge. People are sitting in prison for murder for doing this. The main active ingredient is called tetrahydrolysine. Once it enters your gastrointestinal tract, it can be absorbed by your intestines and end up in your blood, causing your blood pressure and heart rate to drop to potentially life-threatening levels. It really makes me wonder how many people have died due to people copycatting that scene in Wedding Crashers. Somebody commented, in high school, a kid that I know, not really a good friend, but from the same social circle, gave me a Gatorade and told me I could have it because he didn't like the flavor. I split it with my friend and we happily drank it all down. The next period, some of my classmates were acting really weird and kept asking how we felt. Eventually, one of us told them that he had put a ton of Vaccine in the bottle. We went to the nurse expecting to be sick, but then she looked up the ingredients and effects, and yep, it can kill you. Both of us that had drank it ended up in the hospital with extreme lethargy and trouble breathing. I ended up staying for about 16 hours straight. I obviously didn't want my friend to get hurt too, but in a way it was a blessing, as if I had drank the whole thing by myself, I could have easily died. Somebody asked OP what happened to the person who put it in the Gatorade. He got put out of class in handcuffs and suspended for 2 weeks. Could have pressed charges but decided not to, as he obviously didn't know how dangerous it was. Poisoning is a felony, and it didn't feel right to ruin his life permanently, even though he was being a turd head. OP is a lot more gracious than I or my parents would have been. Yeah, he probably thought it was an innocent prank, but I don't think pranks should ever be used to hurt people, pooping included. It's no fun when one of the people in the prank equation is in pain. Story 2. It's amazing how many people play around them or swim just upstream of them. Almost no one knows the bottom of them is a death trap of rotating undercurrent, and almost no one knows how to escape one if you did get stuck in it. Even if you do know how to get out, you'll have a hell of a time of it. If a kid gets stuck in one, they're as good as dead, as does anyone who goes in to save them. Very few actually have warnings around them. If you unluckily get trapped in one, to try to swim down to the bottom and swim and claw your way downstream along the bottom a ways, and then swim up to the surface. Somebody commented, caught in one as a preteen. I was downstream of it where the water was only about 2.5 feet deep and decided to walk up to it and climb it. Once I got close, my footing just dropped out from under me because it had eroded to be at 6 to 8 feet deep there. And I got tumbled underwater until I managed to kick off the bottom of the damn thing, far enough towards to where the water could push me downstream instead of sucking me back in. Remember coughing up some water and throwing up some water in the shallows below it, and being near too exhausted to drag myself to shore. I still can't believe they don't post more warnings or rope these death traps off. Frick teaching children about quicksand, teach these kids about forms of population control, littering rivers and streams. Oh yeah, this was an incredibly small one too. If it had been any deeper or bigger, I definitely would have died. Somebody asked, is quicksand even that dangerous? It can be pretty viable, and I've never seen enough of it to actually trap a person. Story 3. Engulfment in confined spaces. With confined spaces, people usually don't realize that O2 runs out rather quickly. Engulfment because people don't probably think about essentially drowning in non-liquids. Somebody commented, flowing solid materials don't even have to cover your nose to asphyxiate you. Anything above belly button level will slowly constrict your diaphragm each time you breathe out, just like a boa constrictor. Someone else said, I fell into a deflashing vat of shirt buttons once when I was about 13 years old. My dad was the plant manager of a shirt button factory in Knoxville, Tennessee, back in the early 1980s. He and I went there on a Saturday morning. He was doing paperwork and I was exploring the plant. Got to the section where the deflashing tanks were and tried to lean over and scoop up a handful of buttons. Lost my balance and fell in. I was about 5 to 6 feet deep, but filled with plastic shirt buttons. I went all the way to the bottom. I was able to stand up and stand on the top of the mixing blades that were turned off. Took forever to get out. The buttons squeezed me as I tried to move. Scariest moment of my life. I don't even let my kids do the whole bury me in sand at the beach thing. Terrible memories of that. Somebody then said, I know of a dude who's being buried in sand at the beach by his family, and died when the rocky layer underneath the sand shifted, opening a void in which he was sucked in. Scary crap. Hey, thanks for the brand new nightmare. Story 4. Exploring abandoned places. When I was a kid, I would do it all the time and take photos without any form of facial protection. Fast forward years later, and I learn about how toxic certain molds can be, how many older buildings use materials like asbestos, which can be in the air when places are left to rot, etc. At this point, I just thank God I never had to deal with the aftermath of any of that. Also, to anyone who enjoys doing this, I get it. I just want to bring awareness to the fact that if you participate, a respirator and goggles should be a must. Also, as a side note, be wary of scrappers and individuals looking for a place to do drugs. Had a run-in like that during one of the last excursions I made, and it's not fun. Somebody commented, when I was about 16 or 17, not really a child anymore, I found out about this cave relatively close to where I lived. Obviously, I got my best mate, some ropes and lights, and off we went exploring. There were thousands of bats flying close to us in the first few areas of the cave. Rabies isn't fun, or so I heard. We had no clue what the cave layout was like, and we didn't say a word to anyone about what we were doing. Luckily, everything went okay, apart from a few scrapes here and there. But when I think about everything that could have gone wrong, I get a chill down my spine. I hadn't even considered the mold aspect of exploring abandoned places. I thought OP was just gonna talk about possible murderers or junkies who were territorial of the space. Honestly though, OP did make a good point about making sure to bring protective equipment, just because you never know what could be growing down there. We don't want the start of The Last of Us to happen all because someone went exploring. Story 5. Just want to throw a story out here. I am a dentist. I have a colleague who had a patient that needed a root canal. The patient put it off and he had a vacation coming up. He was going to Alaska in bush country to go hunting, by himself. Now, Alaska bush country means you are alone. He was dropped off and his ride wasn't going to come back to pick him up for a week or two. Well, after his ride left, the tooth he needed to get his root canal on blew up, had severe pain and was all alone with no one to help him in the middle of nowhere. This was mid to late 90s, so no cell phone either. Well, his ride came back to pick him up. Finds a dead body. Guy killed himself. He couldn't take the pain anymore. Pain was so bad he couldn't wait 1 or 2 weeks for his ride to come back. Shot himself, left a suicide note telling his story. Moral of the story, don't put this crap off. There is no pain like tooth pain. Somebody commented, on my way to brush my teeth. Story 6. Abscessed teeth can kill you. Somebody commented, I had an abscess at 21 that I didn't get treated until I was 28 due to a fear of the dentist. By that point, it was a root canal and an extraction. And now I have a section of my jaw missing. Get it early and avoid this crap. Somebody commented, oh my God, that makes me even more terrified to have my stuff sorted out. Edit, I can't afford the dentist anyway in Canada. I feel so bad for you US folks. Somebody commented, don't be. I didn't go for 10 years and had a part of my tooth broken off. And while I did need some work done and it cost me some money, it's never too late to go. Things will only get worse, so you'll never regret going once you get on a regular schedule again. Plus, I spread out my visits, so I didn't just do everything all at once. Dentists and hygienists are used to people letting it go for a long time. They are just happy you're there to get it taken care of, no matter how long. Story 7. Trucker here. I've had 2 blood clots in my legs from driving long distances and having my leg pressed against the corner of the seat for hours on end. One almost killed me. Apparently, it's very common with truckers. You're supposed to stop and walk around every hour and a half to keep things circulated, which almost nobody does due to time constraints. The same thing happens with gaming chairs. Apparently, people forget to move their legs because they're so comfortable. You don't need to worry so much if you're younger, but if you're a gamer who's a little older, please do not be so focused on the game you don't move. Somebody commented, deep vein thrombosis, DVT, is a well-documented effect of long-haul flights too, which is why pilots who fly long-haul and ultra-long haul, flights lasting more than 10 hours, wear pressure socks. Passengers are advised to walk around the cabin once every few hours. With flights lasting up to 18 hours, this is a necessity. Get the blood moving. If any of these clots somehow dislodge and reach your heart, it is goodbye. I do the same thing when I fly for long times. It's nice to get some movement to help wake up a little. Plus, it can help prevent stuff like this. I know too, when I used to do road trips to visit my grandparents, my mom always forced my dad to stop every 3 hours or so we could stretch our legs. I never understood it until I went to college, but I am very thankful my mom made us do this. Story 8. Posted safety precautions. When there are signs saying something, lots ignore, thinking they know better. I used to work IT for a place that makes big tractors. Different stations are restricted from using certain PPE. One day, this lady was wearing the wrong gloves. Her station is only supposed to use latex. She didn't take that seriously and wore thicker, reinforced gloves. She was using the lug nut machine that tightens 12 giant lugs at once. Her glove got caught, and instead of ripping the fingertip off her latex glove, it ripped her thumb right the F off her hand. I witnessed it, and her mistake haunts me to this day. They had to restrain her while two men held her hand up in the air away from her. Her wails and screams were terrifying. All because she ignored a well-placed warning. Somebody commented, "If there's a warning sign posted, I usually assume it's because someone already effed up and had that exact thing happen to them." Somebody commented then, "Safety rules are always written in blood." Story 9. Insulin. Looking at drops on a table, you can barely tell the difference between the therapeutic dose and a lethal one. Here's some comments from under that post. "As a diabetic, it's a little scary, but luckily the cure is just eating sugar. And you can feel your blood sugar dropping low long before you're in real danger of dying, unless you took some astronomical dose or something. Some patients can't feel their lows. Those people are terrifying to treat, sometimes because increasing their dose could drop them and they wouldn't know. That's when I started to reach for a continuous glucose monitor. But those can be expensive, sadly. My cousin just died from this. Type 1 and took care of it very well. Came home, laid on the couch and asked for a blanket. Boyfriend brought the blanket and she was gone. With type 1, it can happen without a lot of warning. I've been researching it a lot since this happened. So sad." Story 10. Testicular torsion. Don't be embarrassed, ask for help. In all honesty, the embarrassment is all in your head. Doctors and nurses really don't give a freak. They really don't care and aren't judging you one bit. They have seen everything, and then some more. But they will judge you if you make the foolish decision not to seek help because of made-up embarrassment and lose your balls. The pain might not be severe, but you have a few hours tops before your balls die. Edit, to put some numbers to this. If you wait longer than 6 hours, permanent damage may occur. After 12 hours, there's a 75% chance of losing the testicle. Somebody commented, "I had emergency surgery to fix my testicular torsion. Touch, and they ordered an ultrasound to confirm surgery that day. Otherwise, I'd lose it. Went to the ER because my right ball was very tender and painful, and it was twisted. When the doctor returned, he said I was being booked in for went in at 10 a.m. and left at 6 p.m. with a stitched up sack. Wasn't very fun." So if it's not obvious to y'all, I am a woman. That being said, I was a little confused on how testicular torsion happened, which led me down a rabbit hole and my search history got messed up a little. But after looking at some of these pictures, please go to the hospital, guys. If it's nothing, then it's nothing, but better to be safe than sorry. Story 11. Real black licorice root extract contains the natural sweetener glycerin, which is over 50 times sweeter than sucrose. This ingredient has various pharmaceutical properties. It acts as an expectorant, facilitating removal of mucus from the lungs by coughing, and it increases blood pressure. The latter effect can become significant with a daily consumption of 50 grams or more of licorice candy for as little as 2 weeks. Glycerin can cause potassium levels in the body to fall, triggering abnormal heart rhythms as well as high blood pressure, edema, swelling, lethargy, and congestive heart failure in some people. Somebody commented, "I always loved going to Europe as a kid and finding the licorice candies with the 'may cause hypertension' warning labels on them. Felt dangerous eating them." Somebody else said, "Denmark had these licorice sticks with a salty blue crystalline substance inside. I believe it was taken off the market by the mid-1990s. That stuff was good." Story 12. Holding your breath while scuba diving. To most people who don't scuba dive, it may sound harmless. But if you hold your breath and ascend even a little over a meter, you can suffer major lung damage as a result of the gas in your lungs expanding from the lessening pressure. Somebody commented, "When I was training to dive, my instructor took a gallon milk jug down with us, and he filled it half full with air and brought it upwards, explaining what he would do before we went down. It didn't take long before it completely filled with air and blew the cap off as we were going up. When we got to the surface, he said, 'Imagine that was your lungs.'" Story 13. Quitting drinking. Been an EMT for a while and work with a lot of the homeless population. We'll get calls for people who decided today is the day to finally quit drinking and do it cold turkey. As soon as the next morning, people can present with delirium tremens, severe withdrawals can induce seizures, and can also lead to death. A lot of these people will think that because they quit hard drugs like heroin or meth cold turkey, alcohol would be the same, without knowing the major effects it can have on your health. Edit. Guess I should add this is only for people with alcohol dependency and not all your casual or even heavier drinkers. Quitting cold turkey is one of those things you think would be healthy for you, but sometimes it can do more damage than good. It can send your body into shock, as it currently is so dependent upon the alcohol. It's a hard thing to do, but for people who are this dependent, they actually advise slowing down drinking, but still drinking some, so your body doesn't fully shut down. Story 14. Touchscreen consoles in cars. Mazda now disables touch functionality in their vehicles because they found that when drivers interact with the touchscreen, they drift the vehicle to the right, taking your eyes off the road to press 3 buttons in 3 different positions on the touchscreen, with a latency each time you press a button because your seat heaters are literally burning your butt, while trying to maintain control of the vehicle during freeway traffic is goddamn dangerous. Somebody commented, a driving instructor once put it this way: if you're on the highway and you look away for 3 seconds, you've driven the length of an American football field without looking at the road. Story 15. Smoke. It's not only the fire that can kill you, and there's a very good reason you're taught to stay low escaping a fire. The smoke is a hot gas layer that can melt your face off. Somebody commented, that's forgetting the lung damage that it can do. Someone added, I survived a house fire when I was 12. 25 years later, I still have to explain the scarring on my lungs when I have a chest x-ray. I have also developed a long-term respiratory illness. I don't really complain though, since if my dad had woken up 5 minutes later, we would have all died. Story 16. Oleander Nerium. In fact, it's one of the most common ornamental plants in Southern California, planted in people's backyards and along freeways. The only problem is it's one of the most poisonous plants in the world. Toxic compounds include nericide, oleandroside, and saponis. Somebody commented, my mother's friend was trying to sell her face cream called Nerium. My mom took one look at the ingredients and told the lady she was an idiot. Of course, Nerium fills in your wrinkles. Your face is swelling from an allergic reaction. Somebody then said, what in the ever-loving world? Good grief. I love a good pyramid scheme, and now to hear that they're poisoning people with lotion sounds like a heck of a thing to join. Story 17. Essential oils. Do not put them in your food. They are not made to be food safe. Somebody commented, some of them are capable of burning a hole in your esophagus. Why people think they're food safe, I'll never know. Somebody commented, they, shady MLMs, also recommend using the oils on babies and children. They can cause chemical burns. Heard about one story where a newborn baby had to be on IVS, but the mom was obsessed with essential oils, so she snuck in and rubbed some on her baby, which then got them into the IV wounds. Story 18. Over 120 people a year die from deer directly, and another 175 to 200 from car accidents caused by deer, with some 10,000 injuries, and more deaths and injuries related to deer hunting. By the way, deer are pretty mean and terrible parents. I've seen a deer push her fawn ahead of her near the food to see if there's a predator. Then if the fawn is okay, go out and hit the fawn to get at the food herself. Story 19. Rusty, sharp objects, ugly scarring, and the best kind of blood poisoning you can have. Somebody commented, when my son was 10-ish, he went to a summer camp, stepped on a nail that went straight through his shoe. Didn't tell camp leaders, so no disinfection. Instead, 5 more days of unwashed feet and dirty shoes and no shoes. You should have seen the bottom of his foot when he came back. I have never, ever driven to the ER that fast. Story 20. A Brazilian butt lift, BBL, gives people a figure reminiscent of the Kardashians and is hugely popular for getting that Instagram body. But a paper in the Aesthetic Surgery Journal found that 1 in 3,000 BBLs resulted in death, making it the world's most dangerous cosmetic procedure. Somebody commented, don't Google botched Brazilian butt lift. Saw a woman walking on the street with a botched butt lift and looked like she had bowling balls in her back pockets hanging down her legs. Aside from looking like crap, these botched surgeries can actually cause some serious danger and damage to someone's body. It can induce sepsis, or the silicone can leak into other parts of your body, causing blockages which induce death. So totally chill if you want to do it. Just be aware of the dangers and reconsider how much you want to put in your butt. Story 21. Grapefruit in combination with many prescription drugs. Basically, grapefruit can affect the way your medications work. With some meds, adding grapefruit screws up the way your body metabolizes the drug, so you end up with far more than the prescribed dosage. It can also work in the opposite way with other drugs. Less than the prescribed dosage, this is especially bad if you have high blood pressure or arrhythmia. Story 22. Leaving potatoes for too long produces solanine gas that can kill. Here's some comments from under that post. Would that be before or after they started sprouting little stalks? If they turn green or start to sprout, that's a sign to throw them out. WTF, I'm so scared now. My fam eats sprouted potatoes all the time, they just cut the sprouts off. It's fine if they're sprouted if you're cutting the sprouts off. Just avoid green. Story 23. Shift work. The disturbance in your circadian rhythm takes years off your life. Somebody commented, I worked a 12-hour shift job for a year that rotated between days and nights. I call it the blackout year because it's a giant year-long hole in my memory. All I did was eat, sleep, and work. Struggle with indigestion regularly, a completely awful way to live. Somebody commented to them, that should be considered a form of torture. Story 24. Get that UTI handled or you'll get a nasty kidney infection. Somebody commented, UTIs can also cause neurological symptoms, which is a fun bonus. Somebody said, my mom was in the hospital for a week because of this. She was mostly just loopy, asking the same question 3 times in 5 minutes. Then it got interesting with UFOs and impossible human visitors. Even saw knights on horseback riding through the sky. Somebody said to them, sounds like she hallucinated the wild hunt. UTIs absolutely suck, and anyone who has one will tell you the same. They burn when you pee and are just generally uncomfortable. That being said, if you ignore it and don't try to treat it, you can actually cause your kidneys to shut down and go into shock. So yeah, take those pills and see a doctor. Story 25. A hangnail. Yeah, seriously, I had a hangnail once. It got infected. It became swollen and inflamed. The swelling sealed it shut, the abscesses came worse. I went to urgent care. They took one look at my finger and sent me to the ER. I was becoming septic. I spent about 36 hours in the hospital, then home for 2 months of antibiotics. I could have died. Story 26. Acetaminophen. It's rough on your liver in large doses. I know a lot of people who ignore the recommended dose and pop them like they're Skittles for pain. That is incredibly dangerous. Somebody commented, my pharmacy professor in med school mused that if acetaminophen hit the market today, it would be a prescription drug for this reason. Story 27. Throwing a single punch. Here in Australia, it's been criminalized because fights in pubs and clubs are pretty common. The single punch isn't what causes injury, but falling to the ground and hitting their head on the curb can kill, especially since drunk people usually don't have the capacity to soften their fall. Think twice before you risk losing or taking a life over losing your pride for a night. I've been on calls before, when people allege it was only one punch and the person is overreacting, but it genuinely can do a lot of damage depending on where you hit the person. Either a head trauma due to the fall or a nice punch to the windpipe can cause some serious and lasting damage. If you've got to defend yourself, then go for it. But to defend your pride, the jail time isn't worth it. Story 28. Medication. Those dosages on labels are not suggestions, y'all. Somebody commented, yeah, I have never really understood why people take more. There are people at my school who take over double the recommended amount because they think it'll make the pain go away faster. Somebody commented, well, technically it will. After a few years, they will no longer feel any pain. Story 29. Eating a slug. Obviously it's nasty, but kids do stupid stuff as dares or even hazing rituals. Slugs contain parasites that will get into your brain and kill you slowly. Somebody commented, I just read a whole article about rat lungworm and snails and slugs that is haunting me. Ew. Watch the series Monsters Inside Me. That will make you paranoid. Story 30. Going for runs on the road at night without wearing lights or reflectors. Oftentimes, people even wear black. They think that just because they can see the car, that the car can see them. It only takes one accident to change someone's life completely. We actually just covered a story about this a few videos ago, so go check it out. Basically, someone got hit by a car going 50 miles per hour because they were wearing all black at night. Needless to say, it didn't end well. Story 31. Tylenol. It's actually a lot easier to overdose on than most people realize, and it slowly destroys your liver over a period of days. Not a fun way to die, to put it lightly. Somebody commented, for all you high-functioning alcoholics out there, just avoid Tylenol. Story 32. Lack of sleep. Increased risk of basically everything you can think of. Not to mention that accidents are far more common when you're tired. The less sleep you get, the shorter your lifespan. Somebody commented, fine, I'll go to bed. Story 33. Touching stuff inside a guitar amp can F you up really bad. It holds a charge. and it all comes out at once if you touch the wrong spot. Somebody commented, anything with big capacitors follow this rule. That includes anything with an AC power supply. I actually didn't know this one. So I guess you learn something every day. Story 34. Standing under waterfalls. Edit to elaborate. Loose rocks or debris from the river or stream above could fall and crush you. Somebody commented, great, now I'm scared of waterfalls. Story 35. Doing cocaine on birth control pills. Seeing 20-somethings wind up with strokes and DVTs. Somebody commented, ditto with Viagra and poppers. Story 36. Infections can still F you up easily if you don't seek medication attention in time. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.